Hello there, everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you about VoidExpanse. VoidExpanse. It is a space sort of action RPG, 2D shooter, along the lines of something like Space Pirates and Zombies, although there is another game that it reminds me even more of, actually, but we'll get onto that later. It is by Atomic Torch Studio. Available on Steam right now. It went through a bit of an early access period kind of thingy, and developed a bit in there, and there's actually been a bit of a community around it for a little while, because it was one of those developments where even early on in its lifespan, modding support was kind of a big deal, very featured, a lot of help, as in, the developers themselves actually talking to modders and even posting little changelogs about new modding features, and even posting on the mod pages being like, hey, we changed this, you should change this in your mod to make sure it's compatible, and stuff like that, just kind of helping the scene along, because these developers are very much aware, as a lot of PC indies are, that a modding scene around your game is a very good thing to encourage. So as of full release, this game actually has workshop support fully integrated in it, and in fact there is actually already a quite good, I'm told, total conversion mod by the name of Breaching the Core. Now I'm obviously not going to show that right now because that wouldn't really be representative of the game itself, but apparently it's pretty good, and it actually overhauls pretty much the entire game, new loot, systems, everything. But as far as the game itself, well, let's jump in and allow me to speak at you about it. So let me load my main game here. This is my second kind of try. Well, I guess try isn't the best word. This is my second character. I've put about 8 hours into one character and about 7 hours into this one. So I've played this game fairly extensively up to this point, trying to get an idea of what it offers. And, well, here we are. Welcome. Quite a pretty background, as you can see there. It is a beautiful blue nebula. It is also known as a space cloud. Yes, you're welcome. So, I guess first to talk about is what's it similar to, because obviously that's something that a lot of people like to hear, especially when it comes to games that they are rather unsure about, as in games that have a bit of a different genre than something as basic as it is an FPS. It is a puzzle platformer. In this case, it is most similar to something like Space Pirates and Zombies, but it reminds me of another game, a very, very good free game by the name of Transcendence.
Where
and
did
I
you
think
learn to fly?
Very funny. And I think that similarity, that's a real word. Similarity is one of the reasons that I've put so much time into it and actually have appreciated it as much as I have, because Transcendence is a game that I like a lot. Way too much, in fact, and now I actually want to go back and play it. The comparison isn't 100% fair, because Transcendence has been around for years, is free, and has a very large, comparatively, and active scene around it. Also very mod supported, and uses this kind of 2D perspective in a 3D world, and things like that. By the way, if you want to look up Transcendence, definitely do so if you're a space kind of arcade game fan. Very good. Anyway, it's a game where you are in this procedurally generated galaxy. As you can see, it's actually fairly sizable, and you can obviously alter the size of it in world generation when you first begin. And you are tasked with finding your way through. It's fairly sandboxy in that you're not given a specific directive. You are just basically told, hey, there are factions in this world. You should probably think about joining one. Here is your ship. It's crap. Go. You start with a very crappy ship. And you are given a slightly less crappy but still really crappy ship shortly afterwards, and then you're on your way. And as you can see, these colors represent different factions, and the faction system is integral to the way that the game actually works. So you have these guys, which are kind of the basic, Federation-style people, the Order, and you also have these guys, Freedom, which are kind of butting heads with the Order, because Freedom is mostly mercenaries and things like that, some pirate activity, but not dedicated to it, whereas Order is, as their name would suggest, an actual organized force, and as you could tell, forces like that, well, they're going to butt heads quite a lot, and the sort of politics involved are missions that you will actually take place in, and in fact, I actually have a mission called Hacking Order right now, where I've been tasked by a fairly important member of Freedom to go into the Order capital and hack some of their terminals to actually get some information on what's going on. Now, as I blow this person up, let's keep going. There's also the fanatics, which are, as you can kind of see by their really neat symbol there, kind of they worship the aliens, as it were, and they're a bit strange. You also have, of course, the obvious pirates, who are exactly how you would think. There are the neutrals, which obviously aren't a faction in and of themselves, and there's these guys. This giant red thing here. These are the Zingatarn, and the Zingatarn are the alien race of the game. There's another race of aliens, but they are pretty much gone millions of years ago. The Zingatarn are the active threat, and everyone is pretty much against them. Of course, the fanatics do sort of worship them, but also the Zingatarn will kill anything that isn't them, so they're still enemies with each other, and that is represented by this nice little, almost 4X space game style diplomacy-looking screen that actually just shows the basics of who is who in this world. So as you can see, if you click on the order, they're okay with me, they're alright with freedom. The neutrals, of course, I don't have anything against, but the fanatics, the Zingatarn, of course, and the pirates, they have a very poor relationship with. And you can click on any of these in order to get a fairly general view of their place in the world. And you are able to join the order, freedom, I think the fanatics, and maybe the pirates with some difficulty. I can't remember if that's true or not. I chose this character to actually join freedom because I kind of like the mercenary idea that they give off. And the mission variety is something to consider in the game. The game itself is fairly content light. Although the galaxy looks quite large, the game itself is not huge. Something like Space Pirates and Zombies, for instance, has a fairly significant amount of content in terms of the progression of different ships, different places to visit with various mission types. You have the entire, zombie part, which is sort of the second half, almost an endgame style event that actually changes the entire galaxy, and things like that. And of course, the Zingatarn threat in this are similar to the zombies of Spaz, in that they are this sort of omni-antagonistic force that slowly takes everything over. But the mechanics around them are a lot simpler in this game, and that's kind of the first thing I actually want to talk about. Is this game is fairly simple. There's nothing about it that screams extreme difficulty. It's not an easy game necessarily, especially in the higher difficulties. You can be killed quite easily by large groups of fighters and things that will swarm you, but for the most part, it is a fairly straightforward game. You do missions for who you want to join, you join them, you do more missions now that you're joined and have access to different NPCs to talk to, and you fight the aliens. And your ship progression is fairly simple. There are a good number of ships, and of course mods help with that. I have several mods installed right now, nothing total conversion style. Dang it. And your basic kind of directive is to explore the galaxy, find out by talking and doing some quests who you want to join, and then join them, and then try not to die from the aliens. And that's basically it. There's not something like Spaz actually has a kind of overarching story and theme with the kind of trying to reach the galactic core and then the zombie threat and all that. This is definitely a much simpler game, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily worse off for it. If you're looking for an extremely deep, complex experience, this is not it. It's not that it's not a game without any depth at all. As you can see, there is a loot system, inventory system. There's actually quite a bit of equipment that you can actually gear yourself out with, and there are a good variety of ships of 4 different hull types. You have, I believe it is, let's see, light frigates, heavy frigates, light cruisers, and heavy cruisers. And this is the skill tree, which I should also explain. The class system in the game is a bit of a misnomer, I suppose. That's kind of... The classes aren't restricted. The class that you choose at the beginning, I chose engineer for this character, as you can see, only actually determines what skills you're going to start out spec'd into. There are no class requirements or class limitations, as in only an engineer could equip this piece of gear, things like that. Anyone can get any of these things in the skill tree. Anyone. So the class is very much a starting gear kind of thing, and not actually telling you how you're actually going to be playing your play style, which I guess is good in a game that's about lots of ships and things like that, because you probably don't necessarily know your play style at the beginning until you actually get into it. But as you can see here, I've invested quite a lot into mining, because mining is a good way to make a lot of money. I'm going to actually do that right now, and I'll show you how the mining works. So, one thing that you're going to be wondering, I suppose, probably is, what kind of playstyles does this game offer? The engineering side is not that specific, really. Engineer ranks mostly just determine what kind of fancy technology you can equip. A couple of extra things, like I have this EMP generator, which I'll demonstrate. Just, boom, do that. And it obviously disabled that ship for a little while. That's very useful when you're swarmed by several ships, which I'm about to be here, it looks like. And, you know, geared to that effect, the kind of fancier little technological devices, that's some of the things that you can equip when it comes to your engineering class. But as far as the actual variety of gear goes, none of it's actually geared towards a specific class, which I think maybe is a bit of a missed opportunity. I think it would be cool to actually go the route of something like the X games, obviously in a much simpler way, because this is a, you know, nothing like one of the X games like X Beyond the Frontier or X3. Albion Prelude, for instance, very good game, if you don't want to ever go outside ever again. They kind of, I feel like, missed the opportunity to really cater to a lot of different playstyles by making all of the playstyles quite varied. In this case, you can pretty much do everything. For instance, I can fight quite well in this ship, which is it's a bit of a freighter with some good weapon mounts. Not extremely good weapon mounts, but it's kind of a gunboat. As you can see, it has this sort of broadside characteristic with its guns, so the guns are most effective when you're actually, you know, facing sideways. And they don't face directly forward or directly backward, they don't rotate that far. And this has a very large cargo hold, and is just not all that agile, as you notice that turning takes a little while. And things like that. This is very much a kind of combat freighter type of ship. But really, I can still do pretty much everything. I can equip it with whatever weapons I want, I can mine all the asteroids I want, I can hack all the terminals I want. Basically, you don't really have to dedicate yourself to a specific playstyle. And for some people that is going to be a good thing, because obviously you're going to want to experience all that you can. And that's definitely a valid, you know, way to view it, but what I see it as is kind of indicative of the issue that this game has, and that is its depth of content. If the game actually limited you to how much you could do, there's not actually enough content to justify that, and I feel like it would get boring quite quickly. So with the amount of content that's actually in the game, I feel like to actually get a good amount out of the game and actually get a good playtime out of it, you do need to kind of be able to experience everything, no matter what sort of class you are, what build you're going for. You sort of play every role as a pilot. You do everything. You persuade people, you know, there's a persuasion skill, but it's very basic. It's not like a skill tree that involves different sorts of linguistic capabilities with aliens or anything like that, and it's nothing like a kind of diplomacy system in a 4X game, and it's also nothing like, say, even there are different Fallout style like speech skills, like intimidation or persuasion or charming, you know, things like that. It's just one 10 skill point skill that you invest into that allows you to persuade people. That's it. It's, you know, there's no like tree or anything. I'll show it to you here. If you go to social,
we're out of power.
This persuade. Oh, it's 20 points. Sorry. It's just that's all you really need, and then suddenly, you know, bam, you can persuade people, and that's it. So the depth of the game isn't really its strong point. I think the strong point is just experiencing the fairly interesting universe that it generates for you in as many ways as you can. So if you're looking for that kind of deep role-playing experience that you would get from something like Transcendence, where you very much have to sort of choose a character path, or something like an X series game or something like that, where of course you're, oh god, I shouldn't fight that thing right now, where you're basically trying to cut your way through the galaxy in your own kind of character's way, and maybe even forming some fancier stuff later on. You're not really getting into that. You will only ever pilot one ship at a time in this game. You don't control a wing or anything like that. There's no automation like factories or anything like that. It is a very basic, just you. Even more basic than something like Space Pirates and Zombies, which actually gives you control of a mothership and a wing of, you know, multiple hangars worth of ships that you can do various things with. So really the thing about the game is, if you are into what it offers, you're supposed to experience everything possible, kind of, that the game offers, and not try and view it as a carve your way through the galaxy role-playing experience. It is probably best as an action RPG because, you know, ARPGs are inherently a little on the simpler scale when it comes to RPG mechanics. And I think the mechanics suit it fairly well. Again, you're not going to find like an intensely detailed role-playing experience here, but that's also not what it, you know, it's not lying to you. It's not saying that that's what it offers. It is a multifaceted but not too deep experience that you could jump in and out of fairly often and get a few things done. You know, you can trade by trying to find a nice little trade route. Obviously, there are many goods, as you can see here. There are different types of ores you can mine or just buy. There are other materials like this biomaterial electronics, food, luxuries, medicine, and polymers. And that's mostly it. There are a couple other things like these organs from the aliens, which you can sell or donate to these science facilities. In some systems, there will be stations that are dedicated to science, and they'll give you points that you can then spend at that facility for specific upgrades. It's a little kind of science-based currency. Like, I think they're just called science points, actually. Very simple. But you're not going to find something like a very detailed system of trade routes and things like that. You can get a very basic trade route system, as in this station likes luxuries more than this station, so buy them at this station for cheaper, go over here, sell them for a higher price. Done. That's mostly what you're going to be finding. You're not finding anything like an extremely advanced economic system like, say, in EVE or in the X games or even in Elite and things like that. So, let's see. Quests. You can do these various kinds of quests. Normally they're randomly generated, but there is a mod that lets you select which one you want to do. So the main types of quests you'll be doing are kind of procedural, as in every station in every system has a station commander that you can talk to that will give you one of these 5 types of quests. So let's go for, say, a bounty contract, which means that it will generate a kind of randomly generated ship in the system that has a bounty that I now go after. So there's always a quest to pick up, you know, wherever you are. You do feel like you're in a somewhat active universe, because you can be, you know, doing a little trade route, end up in a system you've never been in before, find some new things to do there, as in, like, find new terminals to hack for loot, find maybe some new loot to actually get, and find some quests that you're familiar with. It's always the same types of quests, but it allows you to do a little something extra while you're in that system before you move on. So, it is basic, yes, but it is effective at what it does. Like I said, I guess that's the caveat and positive point of the game, is that what it does is simple, but that's really all it sets out to do, and it does actually succeed in what it sets out to do. So, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and turn this quest in. Obviously, that was a really simple quest. Just fly out to the edge of space, blow a guy up, come back, turn it in. Very easy. But I'm going to show you some more interesting stuff here after I do this. Every system has a tech level, which kind of determines what kind of enemies you'll be facing there. Obviously, a higher tech level system will have more dangerous pirates and more well-equipped enemies for you to face and things like that. Also, loot, of course, will be a bit better in higher tech level systems, and most importantly, the actual stations will offer more advanced and expensive things to you to buy. Let's see. I have this really nice ship right now that I can't use that I found earlier. Some medicine. There we go. So, as you can see, there is a good amount of loot. As if you actually break it down, there are only a couple of types of things for each slot. So there are specific types of engines, specific types of RCS, generators, fuel tanks, shields, grapplers, radar, devices, which are mostly what your engineering levels are for, are equipping these devices, which here I'll show you. You have these device slots. I have a mining device, the EMP, and this, which is a story item that lets me go into Zingatarn territories. Normally, the jump gates are inaccessible to you until you get to a certain point in the story that lets you actually go into Zingatarn space, which I'll show you now. And then you also have these boosters, which are really what your engineering levels are for, which are like little passive upgrades that can do various things. Often they have a benefit and a drawback, which I like. I like that kind of a little bit of complexity there with customizing your ship. And you also have weapons. There are energy, ballistic, and missile and mine weapons. And they each have several different tiers. They have 1 through 3. As you can see, these are medium slots. There are small, medium, and large. And I do like the amount of customization here because there are several types of weapons for each slot. As you can see, I have ion cannons and these disruptor rays. There are lasers, pulse lasers, plasma cannons, phase plasma emitters, as far as energy weapons go. And then there are some other things, lots of ballistic weapon variety, actually, autocannons, railguns, things like that. Mods obviously add a lot more. I would definitely recommend getting some of the mods to help with the variety. And missiles tend to be rockets and, well, missiles and torpedoes, and mines are pretty self-explanatory. But I do like that you can actually bind every weapon to either left, middle, or right, which let me actually set up this ship to have one side as each mouse button, so I'm not constantly wasting energy. There's a good amount of equipment and ship variety. It's probably the high point of the game is the ships are all pretty cool looking, and it is genuinely exciting to get a hold of a new ship and outfit it with some new stuff, and jump to a new area and see what you can actually find. So I'm here right now. I'm going to show you what it's like in a Zingatarn territory, and jump into Nordanegi after I kill this headhunter that is after me. There will be various pirate headhunters after you. The combat is... It depends on what kind of ship you're in. I suppose it could be more faster paced than this because I'm in a fairly slow kind of boat. Obviously you can strafe, you have strafing thrusters, you have very good kind of Newtonian space physics and control of your ship, brakes, and you have this jump that you can do. And obviously faster, more agile ships have the cooldown on that forward little, almost like a combat blink actually shortened, so you can dash around and things like that. It's, again, fairly basic, but it does what it does well. And I guess that's really, if I wanted to sum up my thoughts on this whole game, that sentence pretty much does it. It's fairly basic, but it does what it does well. I guess I should talk about the price while I'm doing this. It is $15, which I feel is not a bad price for the amount of content on offer, especially when you consider the promise of modding, and the fact that modding has already been delivered quite well. There's obviously a good total conversion already, and workshop integration. Also, there is multiplayer. There is a discounted 4-pack available, and the multiplayer is actually pretty good. It allows you to generate your own, basically like a persistent, dedicated server type of galaxy, and actually fly around with your friends in it, which is cool. And the complexity of the game is definitely multiplied, no pun intended, in multiplayer, because you can obviously trade routes and things like that. It becomes a bit more interesting and complex when you have other humans to actually share that world with. So I think that the game definitely shines a bit more in its multiplayer capabilities. I don't know if the mods work in multiplayer. That's actually something to consider. I assume that total conversion mod would be really fun in multiplayer. Maybe if everyone had it, you could run a server with it. I don't actually know. That's something to look into. But yeah, so the mechanical depth of the game isn't extreme, but the mechanical kind of recipe of everything put together does make for an enjoyable time. It's nothing extremely fancy, but it is enjoyable enough, and for the price, and again, when you consider the modding capabilities, oh god, I'm going to die.
At 50%.
It is worthwhile, I find. So I should also talk about one other mechanic that the game just very recently added with some of its newer updates. The game is still being actively updated, by the way. This is a game that the developers are active in. Atomic Torch has been, again, very...
We're taking serious damage.
I noticed that. Very kind with the modding community and very supportive of it, and they do very much continue to update the game and add actually pretty good amounts of content to it. And the latest bigger updates have added an entire story with another alien race that died off like millions of years ago and left these vaults around, which you can hack. So if I try and find one, these little yellow boxes here are those. So let me cruise on up here and show you one. The hacking system, again, as most other mechanics in this game, is basic but functional. And it serves its purpose, and you can find some interesting loot, and again, it adds to the excitement of going to a new system when you have all of these new things to hack and, you know, try and discover what's in and equip a new ship and etc, etc. You get the idea. So let me move my butt over here. I will show you the hacking system. So this was added in a very recent patch, and this is how it works. Very simple. You park your big old butt next to one of the... Oh god, you get blown up first. And after you almost die, then... Oh god, hang on. There are aliens. I do like the Zingatarn, by the way. They're actually really cool, because I've always liked the organic technology theme. And the Zingatarn very much work off of that. All of their ships and even their weapons and stuff like that is all very organic technology, which for some reason I really like. I don't know, maybe it's that the H.R. Geiger fan in me, but... So, the hacking system works like this. You need a requisite skill in the skill tree to actually be able to hack successfully higher security levels, and you need energy cells, which I have some. And you'll be given a grid like this. Some of the nodes will be protected, which means you are more likely to set off an alarm when you try and hack these ones, and you will need to reset for another energy cell, so it could become quite costly on you if you keep screwing up. Basically, all you do is click them. And if you successfully infiltrate it, it'll turn green, and you click the next one in line, and you fail like that. Basically, what you're trying to do is get 3 in a row with this yellow link in between them. Oh god. Like that, and granted. So I got 3 in a row, and now I can loot whatever's inside of this. Again, very basic, but functional. And it adds just that little bit more that you may need to kind of look forward to when it comes to jumping to a new system. And it is kind of a good feeling being in Zingatarn-infested territory for a while, getting a bunch of loot and coming back to a safe system and, you know, doing some trading and some mining and things like that. It does feel somewhat alive and good enough to keep people interested, I feel. Come on. Just... There we go. That only took forever. And... some relics and stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, that's the game for you. That is VoidExpanse. It is basic in what it sets out to do, but effective. It is not as deep as something like Space Pirates and Zombies, definitely not as deep as something like Transcendence, but it is a good enough time if it offers what you're looking for, and with friends, definitely, I feel that the multiplayer could be very worthwhile, and of course they do sell a discounted 4-pack to help make that a reality, and the game isn't that expensive. Again, $15 with the promise of the modding that is already going on and things like that, I would say is good. If that workshop integration and the modding scene wasn't already so good, I would say that maybe 10 would be a better price for the content that it has, but with that active modding, it kind of makes the price seem a lot more okay. So there you go, folks. That is VoidExpanse, available on Steam right now. If you want to take a look at it, I would recommend looking into that total conversion. Who knows, maybe I'll do a video on it. Maybe. Depends on if I like it or not. But anyway, yeah, I think you could get a good bit of fun out of this. It's a nice little bite-sized kind of space exploration experience that isn't necessarily going to take the 8 trillion years that Elite or the X games do out of your life, but is still enjoyable enough. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.